In this video, we will be talking about art, more specifically Baroque art. What were the features and characteristics of Baroque art? It was a European cultural movement that developed during the 17th and 18th century, influenced by the religious tensions that divided Europe into the Protestant countries and Catholic countries. Arts were inspired by classical forms showing reality as it was. Works were full of movement and contrasts. In paintings, some famous artists throughout Europe were Rubens, Rembrandt, and Caravaggio. In Spain, you had Velázquez with works like Las Meninas, Las Hilanderas, José de Ribera, whose work style was called tenebrism, with a strong contrast of dark and light in his works like El sueño de Jacobo, La mujer barbuda. There was Francisco de Zurbarán. He used to paint still lifes and religious paintings of monks, nuns, and martyrs. Examples of his works are La Inmaculada, Santa Margarita, Cristo en la Cruz. You also had Bartolomé Esteban Morillo. He used to paint portraits of women and children in religious scenes. Examples of his works are Muchacho con un perro, Los niños de los Concha, Santa Ana, Enseñado a leer a la Virgen. Characteristics of artwork during this time varied of subject, such as religion, mythology, portraits, daily life scenes, landscapes, still life paintings. People were represented realistically. Scenes showed movement and energy. Scenes showed strong emotions. Velázquez, a leading artist in the court of King Philip IV, known for his great skill in merging color, light, space, the rhythm of line and mass in such a way that had equal value, he was known as the painter's painter. Architecture during this time consisted of beautiful churches and squares. Gian Lorenzo Bernini was a famous architect known for Plaza de Santa Pedro en el Vaticano or Vatican. In Spain, los hermanos Churrejera created their own style, which was extremely ornate and decorative, that can be seen in Plaza Mayor de Salamanca. Characteristics of architecture during this time consisted of curved lines and spiral columns, light effects, ornate facades, and use of fine materials like marble. Music in this time saw great composers like Bach, Handel, and Vivaldi. Science begins to challenge religion. Earth is not the center of the universe. We have famous scientists like Descartes, Kepler, Galileo, Newton, and Copernic. Workshops began to turn out copies of popular themes, value the original work was a modern notion, still lifes and genre paintings of everyday life emerge in Northern Europe. And last but not least, literature. In literature, we had major works written like plays, poetry, and novels by Shakespeare, Molière. In Spain, you had Cervantes with Don Quixote de la Mancha, Lope de Vega with La Dama Boda, Pedro Caldrón de la Barca with La Vida es Sueño, Luis Góngora with Soledades, and Francisco de Quevedo with La Vida de Boscón.
Now, the mind map for art and the Baroque period. The Baroque period was a European cultural movement developed in the 17th and 18th century. It was influenced by religious tensions between the Catholics and the Protestants. Arts were inspired by classical forms. For music, you had composers like Bach, Handel, and Vivaldi. Science begins to challenge religion, that the earth is not the center of the universe. Workshops begin to churn out copies of popular themes. Value on the original work is a modern notion, and you have some famous scientists. In architecture, you had characteristics such as curved lines and spiral columns, light effects, ornamentation on facades, use of fine materials like marble. Many beautiful churches and squares were built. A known architect for this time was Gian Lorenzo. And for painting, characteristics were variety of subjects such as religion, mythology, portraits, daily life, scenes, landscape, and still art. People represented realistically, scenes shown movement and energy, scenes showed strong emotions. Cavardi, Rembrandt, and Rubens were some of the different European artists of this time. Four noteworthy Spanish artists were Velázquez, Ribera, Murillo, and Zurbarán. You will need to know some of their works and styles. So, for example, Velázquez was a leading artist in the court of Philip IV. He was known as the painter's painter, and examples of his work were Las Meninas and Las Hilanderas. Ribera's, his style was known as tenebrism, which had strong contrast of light and dark, and examples of his work were El Sueño de Jacob, La Mujer Barbuda, and then you have Francisco de Zurbarán, painted still lifes and religious paintings of monks, nuns, and martyrs. Example of his work are La Inmaculada, Cristo en la Cruz, and Santa Margarita. Bartolomé Esteban Murillo painted portraits of women and children and religious scenes. Example is Muchacho con un perro. And for literature, many works were written, such as novels, poetry, and theater plays. You will have to know the two known theater or writers of this time period, as well as famous writers and works from this period in Spain.